Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition right here on Thumb Coast TV. I'm Brady Beedon. He's Dennis Stucky, and the Richmond Blue Devils are Division II champions in softball in the state of Michigan. Dennis, they went on a heck of a run to claim their third ever state title. They beat a lot of talented teams on the way there. They finish it off with a victory over Paw Paw in the state finals. But since we last talked to everyone at home, they beat Goodrich in the quarterfinals. Pitchers going to Louisville. They beat Escanaba. Their pitcher's going to be pitching at Michigan next year. And then Paw Paw was the easy one at the end of the line. But Richmond, no one can say they didn't earn this title.
No, and Katie Shoeboy outpitched them all. The last 33 innings of the postseason, she didn't allow a run, only gave up 11 hits, struck out 57 batters, struck out 86 through the entire playoffs, which is, 7 wins, 2 in districts, 2 in regionals, and then a quarterfinal, semifinal, final, and just sensational all the way through, leading the way. And then Kendall Nader was the table setter for them. After starting the playoffs 1 for 12, in the last 4 games that they played, 8 for 13, scored 8 runs, led off the finals with a triple, and got Richmond out to a quick 1-0 lead there. Just one of the many contributors. Until the last game, they were really good on defense. They actually played kind of a sloppy game in the finals, but Katie was able to pitch through any mild trouble that they put themselves into. And again, they got out to early leads in these games. They were very pesky against the 2 tough pitchers. They made those pitchers work hard all throughout the game. Even if they made an out, they were long at-bats. They'd foul off 5, 6, 7 pitches in an at-bat. It seemed like the top 3 hitters always had a full count. And they just had a really good approach. And because they weren't really mashing the ball, they hit, I think, 4 home runs in the playoffs, and 2 were in the districts, and the other 2 came in the regionals. They obviously, the last 3 games, they faced pitching that, unless you get lucky, you're not going to hit a home run.
But that's not Richmond's game.
They played small ball.
That's just what they haven't been that team all year, though, is they were going to score enough. They weren't a bad offensive team, but they weren't an elite offensive team. Like, I think it's safe to say there were some other teams that we cover that had better 1 through 9 lineups. But the difference was, like you mentioned, and you talk about it, you make a run in the postseason, it's all about pitching.
Well, I mean, but they're a team that usually gets 10, 11, 12 hits in a game. They're winning a lot of these games, getting 5, 6. So they hit one ball that actually got to the outfield in that game, and they still won the game 2-0.
Not all state titles runs are made the same. We say it all the time. Not every district title is made the same. Obviously, this one was maybe a little bumpier than it was in the past. Like the last one we covered, they had one big hurdle in Millington, and that was, I believe, the regional final. And we knew if they won that one, there wasn't a lot in front of them that was going to be tougher than them. It just felt like, really, even in the districts, it's not that Notre Dame Prep or Lutheran North weren't good teams. They just weren't on Richmond's level, and they really never were threatened too much outside of really the St. Mary's game was probably the diciest one for Richmond. That was the regional semifinal where they needed a little bit of luck to get the run to tie it up, and then Anna McKiernan did the rest.
Yeah, hit the 2-run homer to walk that game off. But, from the regional on, their opponents were 100 games over 500 this year. They were 140 and 40. And the last 3 teams they played, I think Goodrich was the weakling with 26 wins. And then it was 38 for Escanaba and 36 for Paw Paw. Marysville was one of their weaker opponents at 24 and 8.
Right. And yeah, that was a team they handled pretty well. So, I mean, Richmond proved without a shadow of a doubt how good they were. And the impressive thing was they never really had a lull. Like, okay, let's use some other teams. Algonac, who made it to the Final Four, we'll talk about them in a second, started off their first 7 games without a win. Marine City Baseball, who made it to the state finals. There was a point in there where we thought they weren't going to win their league. Richmond, from the get, was in fifth gear, and they were able to get it going. They swept Algonac in the first BWAC series, and at that point, we kind of just sat back and went, all right, we really don't need to worry about BWAC softball.
At one stretch, they won 15 games in a row this year, and I don't think we mentioned it. It was just business as usual. They were sweeping doubleheaders in the BWAC. It was the second year in a row they ran the BWAC, so they're 24-0 in league play in a tough league, a league that sent 2 teams to the Final Four this year and has been regularly sending teams to the Final Four for the last decade now. And they just were winning games like, well, that's what we're supposed to do, isn't it?
Which, by the way, stat about the BWAC, which is just utterly ridiculous. If you go back to the 2014 season, so 11 seasons ago, in 2014, Croslex made a Final Four. 2015, no one from the BWAC did. 2016, Richmond made it. 2017, Richmond made it. 2018, nobody made it that year, but in 19, North Branch made it. There was no 2020 season because of COVID. In 21, Richmond made it and won it. In 22, Algonac made it, lost in the Final Four. In 23, Richmond made it back again. In 24, it was North Branch that made the Final Four. And now in 25, Richmond again
and
Algonac made the Final Four. And that's half the league in 11 seasons. For an 8-team league to have 4 different Final Four teams and what in total, about 8 or 9 different teams?
Yeah, 9 out of 11 seasons where we've had
one
a
had
season.
2 of them, so 10 different teams have done it. It's just utterly ridiculous and shows how good the BWAC is.
And if you look at our MAC teams, St. Clair got there once, and
15.
Marysville, of course, made the run to the finals before losing to Owasso.
In 21. But all that to say, the BWAC's a pretty good league. So even when you're Algonac and come in second in the league, you still got a pretty good shot, and they make a Final Four. They lose to Grass Lake, Dennis. The bats just weren't there for the Muskrats.
Yeah, and that was disappointing because they'd hit so well against Millington. Like they bashed their way to an 8-6 win over Millington, and I looked at Grass Lake. They had won 10-9 over Langsburg. And I'm thinking, well, this might be a pitcher that Algonac can score on. And they got a quick run in the first inning, and then the bats went cold until the 7th. But by the 7th, they were down 4-1. They got 1 run across. They did have the winning run at the plate in J.C. Reams when the final out of the game was made. So they made it interesting in the 7th. They didn't go down without scratching and clawing. And I actually, when Autumn DeWicki led off the bottom of the 7th with a really hard line drive double over the left fielder's head that one hopped the wall, I thought, oh, Algonac's going to have one of those innings, aren't they? And it ended up not being. They couldn't get another big hit in the inning.
Yeah, their big hit came with no one on.
Yeah.
And they needed 1 more of those. But, so they fall in the semifinal, and if you would have told me Grass Lake only scored 4 runs, I'd have said Algonac's got a pretty good chance to play for a state title. However, second time Algonac's been in the Final Four in the last 4 years. They've won 4 straight regional titles, but here's what I really love about this run for Algonac. They weren't supposed to be here. They had lost a couple of very talented players and a good group that helped set up what Algonac softball is and has become. It's not just one group anymore. I think you can kind of step away and say, well, it was just this one group at Algonac. Hey, they all came through at the same time, like what happened with their football team. They had 3 years of regional final, semifinal in football, and then back to reality. The start of this season was not great, and it might have felt a little bit back to reality, and then they end up in a Final Four after beating a good Millington team, and they had a chance to win it. So to do what they did, I think is a testament that it's not just a group now, it's a program and a culture being built at Algonac.
Yeah, you had a complete turnover. You had 1 player, J.C. Reams, was a freshman when they made the semifinals the last time. She is the only player that played in that game and was on that roster that played in this game.
And that speaks a lot to what Algonac has done. Now I think it's, hey, if we get back to the Final Four, yeah, it's a big deal, and you never want to discount the accomplishments. Ask Richmond, because at some point the run's going to end. But it's not this earth-shattering accomplishment where everyone is going over the moon for it. It's something that, yeah, we're Algonac softball. We can make it back here. And even if you struggle in the regular season, you have a chance to make it there. I mean, I think this was the first time in a while that the team that actually won the BWAC made the Final Four. Yeah. Because the last few years it had been second place, fourth place, second place that ended up making it to East Lansing.
Yeah. So anyways, for all non-believers out there that think we're just blowing smoke, BWAC softball is pretty good.
I'd say it's pretty darn good as well. So Algonac unfortunately falls there, but still a season to remember. Only 2 Final Fours in their history. Before this 4-year run, they had never won a regional, and now they've had 4 straight in this span.
Yeah, and you had to go back a ways to find teams that even competed in districts.
Absolutely. So that was the softball. We had 1 baseball team make the state title game. Marine City on an epic run that came up just a hair short. We'll take a break, come back, talk about that when we return here on the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition, right here on Thumb Coast TV.
From doctor's appointments to work, shopping, and dining adventures, Blue Water Area Transit buses are the lifeline of our community. Depend on us for a ride that connects you to life's essentials. Blue Water Area Transit. Ride the wave.
Riding the bus will avoid the hustle and save you lots of dough. Road rage, don't chance it. Ride Blue Water Transit everywhere you go.
Back here on the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition, Brady, Beedon, Dennis, Stucky. We had 1 baseball team left. Last time we talked, Marine City had cashed their ticket to the Final Four. They matched up with Olivet. And had that been where it ended, had they lost 15-0 in 3 innings, you go, what a run for Marine City. And it started off, Danny Vandeviver was on the bump, gave up 5 hits, 2 runs in the first inning, and it's 2-0 Olivet before anyone has settled in. But there wasn't a panic. Even when I was doing the game on the air, I think I said two runs in the first inning is nothing for this Marine City team. And bang, just like that, 2 runs in the second to tie it, and they had all the momentum. Marine City was playing loose. They were playing excited, like they were happy to, not that they were happy to be there, but they weren't letting the moment get too big, where it felt like Olivet was tense and they're going, all right, we made it here. We've got a good team. We've got to win this. We can't lose. We can't lose to Marine City. We're supposed to win this game, and it showed. The pitcher for Olivet, Burkett, had to throw 60 pitches to get out of the first 2 innings, which is a ton.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And Marine City,
In the major leagues, they're changing the pitcher after 2 if he throws 60 innings.
probably
Or 60 pitches.
They might let him try the third, but he's going to have a short leash. So they let him go all 105 pitches. But in the 5th, Marine City, with a couple of doubles to start off the inning, ended up pushing across 4 runs. They led 6-2. They added on a couple tack-on runs in the top of the 7th, which kind of meant a lot because it was 8-2. Olivet finally got to Danny Vandeviver again because 5 hits given up in the first inning. In innings 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, he gave up 3. He settled in real nicely. The line score won't say he pitched great because he gave up 3 earned runs in the 7th, but he did a nice job. Cooper Letzen came in. The tying run got to the plate, but he got a fly out to right to end it, and Marine City is going to the state finals, and the run just continued. And they got in some rarefied air. So it was only the 7th team overall to make the state finals. It's the 6th different program to do so. We have some good baseball around here, Dennis, but it's hard to make a state championship.
It's very hard. Baseball is one of the harder sports to get there. And you think about it because we had to go back to 1979 to find the first team to make it. Mm-hmm. That was Northern. And then it wasn't until 2011 that we got somebody back to a championship game. And then obviously Richmond had that sensational
Well, yeah, so
team.
here's the
St. Clair.
history of the teams from the Blue Water area that have made the state finals in baseball. You mentioned 1979. Port Huron Northern made the Class A finals, lost 6-4 to Detroit Catholic Central. Then 32 years later, St. Clair made the state championship. They beat Grand Rapids Christian 4-1. That team was ridiculously loaded. They're the only team to ever win a baseball state title from our area. In 2013 and 2014, Richmond made it back-to-back years, lost to Grand Rapids Christian, and then lost to Mount Pleasant. Then it wouldn't be until 21 when Cardinal Mooney made it. They lost to Hackett 8-2 in the D4 final. 2 years ago, Algonac made it. They lost to Bridgman 8-1. And this year, Marine City with Beedon Olivet made it there. So they're in rarefied air already. Like, it is not something that happens all the time. The fact that we've been covering 3 of the 7, we've gotten a little lucky in that regard.
Yeah. And just, again, to kind of put perspective on it, the St. Clair team that won, they've got a kid playing in the major leagues, another kid that made it to the minor leagues, another kid that's playing in the NHL for the Red Wings right now, a guy that was the bullpen catcher for the Tigers for several years. They were loaded.
And they're supplementary guys were guys that went to play JUCO or NAIA ball.
Yeah.
Those were the guys that were filling in the cracks.
Marine City's got a couple of guys that'll go play at SC4, which that's not bad baseball.
Nothing wrong with it.
But that's not the major leagues.
No. And you look at all the other teams. Richmond had several college baseball players, D1 catcher, a few guys that went on to pitch in college ball. Mooney had a bunch of college baseball players. Trent Rice was a freshman on that team. He's playing at Michigan State now. Algonac, their starting pitchers one's at Michigan, one's going to be at Wayne State. Marine City wasn't supposed to be here. And they get to the finals. Traverse City St. Francis gets up 5-0 by the 5th inning, and the Mariner bats just aren't doing much. And you know what? You're kind of thinking, this is where it ends, but you got to the last game. In the 5th inning, they were able to push across 4 runs. They were able to chase the starter after getting a hit. He hit a batter. He was a little wild. They pulled him. And they bring in a sophomore, Lance Voss, who, I'm telling you, his heart rate was going 1,000 miles a minute because he came in and he's a sophomore in a state title game, the biggest moment of that young man's baseball career, and he was trying to throw it so hard that the catcher went back into the backstop because the ball was thrown so hard. And he
just had no control.
No, he was trying to throw the ball, again, as hard as he could. And through the first 2 innings, the first 2 batters, he hits 2, which drives in a run. A wild pitch scores a run. And then an error on a tough play at short made it 5-4. And he got out of the inning with a fly ball. And after that point, he settled down because before then, every pitch ended up in a different zip code. I mean, he wasn't missing a hair off the plate. It was in the dirt. Oh, the batter jumped out of the way, over his head, to the backstop. It was bad. And then in the 6th and 7th, he gave up 1 base runner. And I will give that young man credit. In the 6th and 7th inning, you went, oh, this is why they went to him in a state finals game.
Probably a little more relaxed, too, starting an inning with nobody on,
right,
as opposed to when he came into the game with runners all over the place.
Yeah, so Marine City, they got a runner on in the 6th with 2 outs, didn't do anything with it. They went down 1-2-3 in the 7th. Their season came to an end a run short of the state championship, but there is nothing for them to be ashamed of. I know that they're built in a way where they aren't happy that they lost because the devil's advocate side of it is we just went over the teams that made it. There have been a lot of other very talented players to come through the Blue Water area and a lot of very talented teams, and they don't get there. Yeah. And it's not an easy thing to do. And the fact that this is, 1971, I think, was the first year the MHSAA sponsored a baseball tournament. And we've had not one Cinderella team make it. So this doesn't happen. This is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of run. So the fact that you got there and you were so close to getting it means, yeah, that probably won't happen again. But again, the fact that you're one of 7 teams in 54 years of baseball to do that, that's something to hold your hold your head high with. And the only team that did win that game was stupidly stacked that will be talked about for the next 150 years.
Yeah. And the way Marine City did it, it's kind of reverse of what you normally see. Normally, you have a dominant ace pitcher who, every time he throws, you're going to win that game, and he's going to give you 7 innings, and then you figure it out in the next. Because there's really, for the playoffs, you've got the districts where you've got to, have 2 games in a day, and you've got the Super Saturday that I hate, where you've got the 2 games in the day, and that kind of messes with your world. But for Marine City, they're just juggling guys in and out anyways. So it was business as usual, and they hit their way. They hit their way through the playoffs and into the finals. Probably the biggest pitching performance they got was in the regional semifinal game when they beat Rochester Lutheran Northwest 6-2, and Volkman threw a gem. He didn't throw a pitch over 55 miles per hour, but he threw a gem. And just a lot of curveballs and pitched to a lot of contact, and they won 6-2.
So, again, it stinks that you came up a run short, that you had the tying run on twice and you couldn't get it across. But maybe it takes a week, maybe it takes a month, maybe it takes a year. But when you go back and look and you see you still get a pretty nice trophy for being number 2 in the state. I mean, Dennis, this was a team that was never ranked, and they rank up to 20 teams in each division.
Yeah. This is a team that won its 4th straight league championship and doesn't really get much respect.
And the other thing is they hadn't won a regional before this year. They had played for a regional title one time. One time they played for a regional title. So they were the first team to win a regional, first team to play and win in a quarterfinal, the first team to play and win in a semifinal, and obviously the first team to play in a state championship game. That's pretty awesome. And when you're looking back at the history of Marine City baseball, the 2025 team is going to stick out like a sore thumb in a good way.
They're the best team in that school's history.
Absolutely. So, Dennis, you have anything else before we wrap up spring sports?
That's all I've got.
That's all Dennis has. That will do it for the 2024-25 school year. We appreciate you watching. If this is your first one, thank you. If you've been watching all year long, thank you so much. We'll be stepping away for the summer. We hope, we will be back for football. If there is any breaking news, if there is anything we need to talk about, we'll come on and talk about it. But unless that happens, we won't see you again until August. Thank you so much for watching. For Dennis Stucky, I've been Brady Beedon. You've been watching the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition right here on Thumb Coast TV.